in rape.
Right. I agree. If a baby is at 7 months and it was a rape conception, you can't kill that baby. It's 7 months. The baby should be like, at that point, it's a question of like, but if I wake up and there's a kid in my house, I have every right to open the door and say, get out of my house. And the kid goes, but I'll die outside. I'm like, wow, that sucks. Who are you? Get out of my house. That's a threat to my family. I don't know who this kid is. This kid could be.
Here's why Tim's comparison is wrong. Because there is no comparison to pregnancy. Pregnancy is a wholly incomparable situation. I've said it before, and I will say it again. So while I don't have a problem with abortion debates, and while I'm a fan of Tim Pool's, these scenarios that people come up with, these comparisons that people come up with in an attempt to defend abortion in any way, to any extent, at any point in pregnancy, they are an utter waste of time, because pregnancy is a completely incomparable situation if you are being intellectually honest. There is no other situation in which a whole genetically distinct living human relies for his survival on another separate human. It just does not exist. And it's not comparable to a invader in your home, including a child intruder. It's not comparable to a squatter. It's not comparable to blood or organ donation. And it should be treated, if we're going to talk about abortion honestly, it should be treated like, pregnancy should be treated like the completely unique situation that it is, instead of comparing it to these other things that really aren't relevant or apt comparisons. And here's why they're not. Number one, when you're pregnant, your preborn offspring, your fetus, is a whole genetically distinct living human. He relies on his mother's body for a time in order to survive, but he's not part of his mother's body. At fertilization, all of the DNA required for you to grow into the baby, into the toddler, into the adult that you eventually became, it was all present at fertilization. That is a new human. That is not part of your body. You didn't come from an embryo or a fetus. You were an embryo and also a fetus. These are stages of human development. Now, obviously, these are very early stages of human development. You are not physically or cognitively developed to the extent that you are now. But when it comes to the fundamental human right to life, we don't discriminate on the basis of cognitive or physical development. We are talking about a new genetically distinct, individuated human life. We're also talking about a whole human. A lot of times pro-abortion activists get this confused. They like to say, well, if he's whole, then just take him out of the uterus and he should be able to survive on his own. No, he's whole. That simply means that he's not a partial human. He's not a potential human. He is a whole human. But yes, he still has some developing to do. In the same way that a newborn is a whole human, but he still has some developing to do. A fetus, if you give him the proper time, the proper environments, the proper nutrients, you don't suck him out of the uterus, he will more than likely develop into a baby, into a toddler, etc., etc. He is a whole human. On top of that, he's innocent. A fetus exists and requires his mother's body in order to survive through absolutely no fault of his own. And thirdly, when you're pregnant with your own preborn offspring. This is your blood, your DNA, your biology. So those three things that I just stipulated, they mean that pregnancy is a wholly incomparable situation. It's not comparable to anything else. Not to organ donation, not to blood donation, even if it's forced by the government, not to an intruder in your home. It's simply not. And here's why Tim Pool comparison, why it's incorrect. He's comparing pregnancy via the tragedy of rape. He's comparing it to a child entering your home in the middle of winter, and you didn't do anything, you didn't behave any type of way, you didn't take any act to bring him there, but he's there now, and he's reliant on you for his survival. So isn't that kind of like conceiving via assault? Well, no, it's not, because first of all, a child in your home, why is he there? Children are capable of misdeeds. You don't actually know if he's wholly innocent. And you're probably stronger than him physically, but you may not be. What if you are an older woman? But you know what you do know? You do know that your preborn offspring is wholly innocent, even when he is conceived in the absolute horrible circumstance of assault. You don't sit there and say to your fetus, how'd you get here? Who let you in? What do you want? In fact, it would be absurd if you did that. So it's not really comparable to that child entering your home. Moreover, that child entering your home, even if he is innocent, he's not yours. He's not your blood, your DNA, your biology, your offspring, especially if you're a woman. Now, if you're a man, maybe he's your long lost child who you didn't know about, okay? But if you're a woman, he's not your child. But if you are pregnant, even when you are pregnant, in the unfortunate circumstance, the absolute tragedy, the horror of sexual assault, you are still pregnant with your child. You're not pregnant with a rapist baby. You're pregnant with your baby. That is your DNA. That is your blood. And I say that because in every single situation, except when we are trying to defend abortion, when we are trying to defend the indefensible, in every other situation, we recognize that a parent has a unique and fundamental legal and moral obligation to his or her own offspring that he or she does not have to any other human, including other blood relatives or other children existing on the earth. You have a unique legal and moral obligation to your own offspring that you don't have to any other human on the planet. And in fact, no other human on the planet has that obligation to your offspring. The relationship between parent and biological child is a unique one. It's an incomparable one. It does not compare to any other type of relationship. And what myself and other pro-lifers are arguing is that that unique legal and moral obligation ought to begin the moment that you become a parent. Morally, it does begin. And legally, it ought to begin the moment you become a parent. And you don't become a parent at birth. You become a parent at the moment of fertilization. As we've already touched on, I didn't come into existence when I exited the birth canal. I existed as an embryo. And even if my parents were not aware of my existence in that moment, I still very much existed. They were still very much parents. And you become a parent from the moment of fertilization. Now, obviously, we don't know when the moment of fertilization occurs, but when you take that test, when you realize, yep, I'm pregnant, you're now a mother. When you realize, yes, I have made a woman pregnant, you are now a father. And as such, you have a unique legal and moral obligation to your own offspring. Now, that's not me saying that you should put the child out of your house into the cold, or that all human lives aren't equal, or that we should treat other children poorly. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I am saying that you have this obligation to your own children that you don't have to anybody else. And the very first step of that is not killing your own offspring, as would happen in the case of an abortion. I feel for women, absolutely, who have gone through the tragedy of assault. Believe me, I do. But the circumstances surrounding conception do not change the facts of being a living human. The fact of your life, the fact of your humanity, the fact of it mattering are not dependent upon your mother's desires, your mother's desire to no longer be pregnant, nor are they dependent upon your father's awful behavior. At all. You're either human or you're not. You're either a living human or you're not. You're either an innocent living human or you're not. And every single preborn fetus is, regardless of the circumstances around his conception. In the same way that the mother of a newborn cannot kill her newborn baby just because the father leaves her and she wasn't expecting that and he was her only means of emotional and financial support, that doesn't mean she can end her baby's life, even though she didn't sign up for this and the father has behaved awfully. No, that baby still has a right to his own life. And we recognize that because he's ex utero and we can see and feel and touch and smell him and we recognize his humanity, but he was just as much human in utero as he was ex utero. So don't listen to these comparisons. Again, I'm a fan of Tim Pool. I'm a fan of conversations around abortion, but these comparisons are intellectually dishonest.